All right. Well, thank you all for having us. We're so excited to be here. My name is Lauren. This is Ulrich. We come from Rapid7. We are here today to talk about AWS security, kind of obvious at Reinforce. Who are we, though? We are the platform delivery team, which is what we call our DevOps team at Rapid7. So we are not InfoSec. Don't hold us against us. And we are excited to be here after 20 years of experience between the two of us in cloud and security. We live and breathe this every day. So this is what we do all the time, and we're really looking and excited to share some of the ways that we think about DevSecOps and SecOps at Rapid7, and hope that you can take some of these ideas home and apply them in your environment. So who is Rapid7? In case you don't know us, we're a cybersecurity company helping our customers be future ready through a suite of products called the Insight Platform. We not only provide these products to our customers, but we also use them. So we are customer zero for all of these tools. And what we're here to talk about today isn't really buy our product. We're talking about a system of how we integrate tools together. So you can do this with the tools that you have in your own environment, with the people that you have in your own environment. And we really want to highlight the process that we go through as we think about DevSecOps. So what this is, right? It's not just about the tech. It's really a whole picture here. So this is a hard problem. We're always talking about shifting security left and getting involved earlier in the process, but how do we do that? And for us, it's combining all of these components into one. That's what allows us to be able to innovate, collaborate, start from the same page. We are not going to talk too much today about detection or incident response. We really want to focus on the left side of the process. So I mentioned platform delivery. It's what we call our DevOps team. So we are focused on enabling developers, advocating for the platform, and earning our customers' trust. So for us, the way that we've shifted our focus to better incorporate security is bringing security in as one of our internal customers. So just like we treat our product teams that are writing code and using our tools, we're having those same conversations with information security, prioritizing their asks and being able to work with them to build a better solution for all of our internal teams. The way we do this is we embed security personnel into our teams. They join us for demos and our products. They are working side by side as we respond to things. So there is really that relationship early on. This is that people aspect that we're talking about. For us, this importance of collaboration and having that human connection is a key point. So these are some of the tools that are in our environment. And the really main point here is that they're all owned by different things, different teams. And that ownership and that different ownership can sometimes lead to challenges and friction. We want to reduce that by building the relationships there so that we can have InfoSec involved in the conversation early. The value add here is that we are able to work together and have trust in our teams and in our partnership that we are all working with the same intent. That same intent, it comes down to shared goals. So for us, we think about shared goals with our InfoSec and our DevOps teams and the company as a whole, is that really security is job zero, just like AWS says. So everyone is responsible for securing our environment and our customers' data. We provide common tooling for security across the entire org to be able to have visibility and monitoring. We are flexible in how we adapt, and we are working towards an automate everything approach. So wherever possible, removing a human from the response so that we can simplify the problem. So one of the ways that we do this is through a security baseline. So there's a lot of people here today, I'm sure, who are going to talk about security baselines. And that's not our goal, isn't to tell you what yours should be. What we're here to talk about is how this isn't just a checkbox activity. Having a security baseline is what enables us to solve more challenging and more present problems. We can take the baseline that we have and trust that this is applied across all of our environments. And our goal is to have that match both what we have in our infrastructure as code as what is running in production. We'll talk a little bit later on about how we identify and enforce some of the drift in those scenarios, but we really want to put that first as our process. In addition to having a strong baseline that we are confident in, the way that we get visibility into what is happening in our environment is through tagging. So for us, every resource within our accounts is tagged. We have hundreds of AWS accounts. We have different teams running in many different environments, and this is the way that we identify the owner. We have a culture of you build it, you own it at Rapid7, and that means that we are all invested in making sure that the products and the services that the developers create are running well and are secure. So we have our service and our owner. How do we get in contact with them? For us, that's Slack. For others, it might be email, but having that point of contact of who owns this item. The other components here are we think about managed and Terraform directory. So we have a lot of different tooling in our environment, and it's really useful to know where is the source of truth? Where am I going to look to find out where this was created? I don't know if anybody else has responded to an alert or page in the middle of the night, but being able to see that Terraform directory associated with a resource where you need to make a change, you can go find that resource in code, make your change and get it out without sifting through tons and tons of repos. So this is really important to us and having that visibility. Some of the things that we do from our side, and we'll talk more about, is automatic tagging. So for resources that are created and you're not able to add tags, whether it's at start time or it's something that's done in a dev or test environment through the console, we are able to automatically add tags using our product Insight CloudSec. So including that owner and resource and managed, whether it's console or through a deployment tool, after the fact helps us have that consistent visibility in our environment so that we can always have that expected view. So far we've talked a little bit about the people and what our shared goals and where we're starting from, and that's really the groundwork for how we think about DevSecOps at Rapid7. I'm going to hand it off to Ulrich to talk more about how we find where we drift and how we remediate. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. We start with our own products. And so we are a little bit lucky to have licenses for our own product. They are relatively cheap to us. And we are also on the top of the queue for some feature requests. So it is basically a no-brainer for us to use them. However, while we give some specific examples how we use things, this really is not about the products. It's really more, again, about the approach. And probably our marketing team will hate me for it, but don't necessarily buy these things or don't believe necessarily in the hype what the vendor tells you. Think more about how it fits into your process and how to achieve it. The other thing, I was told I have to tell some legalese. The tools on the bottom, we have no affiliation with them, but we use them. And if it wasn't clear, the products on the top, we have an affiliation with them, and you can buy them from us. So how does it work, this identifying the baseline? So this is a screenshot from our product Insight CloudSec. And this is the example where a snowflake role was created. And so this lists now a bunch of these things, for example, the required tag missing, what Lauren was talking about, that not all these tags were present, but also that cloud role trusting unknown account, which means it's an account which is not present in our AWS environment. So when we think about some of these baselines and some of the detections we have, we really go from things which you cannot prevent via SCPs and basically put these in and otherwise utilize SCPs for the whole misconfiguration to prevent it basically even from happening. And it is great to have there something which gives you the whole visibility, and you can basically put all the configurations inside. But let's be real. you probably have like tens or 20 different tools which give you like all the visibility, right? You have Trusted Advisor, you have AWS Config, etc., etc. Like, I don't need another tool to give me visibility. I need something to remediate. And this is also what we do here, which is really important. So I can here define on any resource which will get created or modified that I run my actions on. And so the most common example is write public S3 buckets. So we skip that. So let's do public SSH and RDP, right? So we can here define anytime basically a security group gets created, I basically define my rules. And then more importantly, in our case, because we have it clarified, we delete that resource automatically if it's publicly exposing the security group rule to the internet. But the other really, really important and crucial pieces, we don't stop there. No, we post the information to our BI system so that we can keep track what keeps happening and who created these things, so that we can identify is there some things unclear about our policies, or who do we need to reach out to better communicate these things or better training, and really also show the value of our tools. So right, I think even if you do then auto remediation, definitely track what you do and basically use it for additional approaches and additional learnings. Right, and everybody talks about shifting left, and we are not different, because like everybody wants to basically move visibility to other people. And so one thing which is really important, in particular in our cloud environment, what we found is that the rules between what you do in your infrastructure as code and how you scan your cloud environment should be the same. So what I mean with that is, like, I don't want to like define like a list of all my AWS account IDs or anything. I just want to say any AWS account or any trust relationship which is not in my org, alert on it. And so having there basically the same and live view from your infrastructure as code enforcement to the live environment is really, really crucial. And then of course the normal stuff, right? Integrates in GitHub and that you basically shift these things left. We basically have some things auto-apply these things in GitHub. That's why we put it there. But you can also think about putting it in your IDE or other places. And the really, from an approach perspective thing, which is really crucial, is for us, start with things which are non-preventable, right? SCPs are great and you should use them as much as possible. But unfortunately, you can't restrict everything. So really focus on basically things you can't restrict and start also really small. Because like, right, people will like, oh, what about this, what about that? And they're like, right, start with basically enforcing some things, what basically is common sense. Like public S3 buckets or like SSH groups open to the public. Nobody will, or hopefully nobody will discuss this thing, and then you can basically build the trust and go further. So how does it look like? We use Atlantis for auto-applying our Terraform and basically providing feedback to developers. And so we have it integrated so that, again, here we see the request tags missing. And apparently some people were a little bit naughty and basically didn't apply all the tags. But also we see the other rules have been applied in unknown trust relationships. So if anything, there's also a link to it, and the things get modified, commented in GitHub where you can see it. So this gives really the visibility to the developers and allows them to really identify basic things which they shouldn't do or address. The other thing which is really, and this is my favorite example what we do on the required tags missing, we have something in our dev accounts or other accounts where you can make modifications via the console. We automatically set the owner email tag where it basically automatically sees like who logged in and basically associates it with the instance or any resource you created. So even for like the support or like things, testing things out, we really basically put these things in to basically get the visibility and be able to track these things down. And we use this also for like FinOps purposes or security or PagerDuty alerts, etc. So using it is really nice. Okay, the other really cool thing is, and I love this example. By the way, that was me, and I basically cleared it with the InfoSec team. I was allowed to do that. But like, the idea is really automate things. And one really, really big thing what we started to do is we have basically a common approval workflow. The idea is that we basically want to use basically the people who basically know things best about the environment. So in this case, like, right, instead of sending alerts to analysts, we basically send the alerts to either the manager or the person itself to basically say, yeah, this was an intended action, or like to get approval. And so by offering these things as a common service, we can basically distribute the workload of the different teams and also make the people part of the security posture and use it. So like, right, because I know best if I did that command or not. And so like in a similar fashion, we can use this for like access requests and other things. And so by providing these things like as a service, or it's almost like a microservice to your company, you can basically provide this to IT teams or other teams, which can be reused, which is, I think, pretty cool. So how does this all basically come together? So one, it's really important to have a strong foundation, because like, right, if you build a house and then like no foundation, probably falls in. The other thing which at least we learned, which was really crucial, to have like shared priorities across the different teams. Because if you basically don't have the shared priorities, people run into different directions, and then people or teams get mad at each other because like there's like, yeah, it just doesn't work. And so really like treating like then the security team or like the DevOps team or whatever as a customer is really, really crucial. And try to distribute some of the things. Try to get other teams involved and basically share these things and get their knowledge in and use them to make some of the decisions. You don't necessarily have to make all the decisions, but like, right, you have to define some of the frameworks. And then like, right, communicate. Share and meet your teams where they are. Like, share your approach internally, externally, maybe give a talk at Reinforce or reInvent now. It's a little bit late for Reinforce if you haven't done anything. But more importantly, like, really understand what the pain points are of the people and trying to work with them. Because like, they have a different overall priority or goals, and you have to basically figure out how together to make basically things better and more secure. Thank you.
Thank you.